Welcome in to another Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. My name is Gabe Anderson, and I'm joined, as always, by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
We're doing all right. A little bumpy on the road trip here, but other than that, we're doing all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I had the I had the YouTube up of the actual session, so I started hearing myself in the mic, so I was a little confused there for a second. But by the way, I should mention first, if you like what we do, make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And as Chris was mentioning, the Wolves on a 3-game losing streak, which includes a loss against a Jimmy Butlerless Heat team, a loss against a Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton-less Portland team, and a loss against a Anthony Simons, DeAndre Ayton, and Robert Williams-less Blazer team, both on the road. Chris, why is the sky not falling?
I mean, it's the NBA. I think it's beautiful that Timberwolves fans are at the point where if we're not sitting first in the Western Conference, we're disappointed. I mean, first and foremost, I think that's a wonderful thing to have as a Timberwolves community, is that sort of, that sort of expectations. I mean, we're 500 right now. I don't know, you can probably count them on one hand how many seasons in franchise history the Timberwolves have finished it above 500. So, the sky isn't falling. It's
Right.
not the end of the world. Are we figuring things out? Sure, we are. Are we up to speed? No, we're definitely not up to speed. But I'm going to read one quote. Here's one quote.
Yep.
We've got all of you crying about how we look. Some people saying we lost our identity. We know what we have, and it takes fine tuning. It sounds like a decent quote, but that's from Josh Hart about the New York Knicks complaining about their fans complaining about them. I mean, everybody that makes this sort of trade, there's going to be some fine tuning. It's going to look sloppy. It's okay. We're doing fine.
Right. And I love what Anthony Edwards says at the end, just talking about quotes. What he said after the second Portland loss, he was basically asked, are we going to be ready, or is the squad going to be ready for the upcoming Sacramento game? And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll be ready. Our problem is, and I'm paraphrasing, but our problem is the maturity to be ready for the games in between. Bringing it on a back-to-back against Portland, bringing it against the Charlotte Hornets or something like that. And I think that's going to be important for the Wolves going forward, because we've seen them play pretty well against the better teams. I mean, they were right on the doorstep against the the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks just went on a run in that one. They beat the Kings. Obviously, the first game against the Lakers was a little weak, but other than that, we played good teams pretty well, and we just hit kind of a bump right now where, I don't know, no one's really performed. I don't think anyone except Naz Reid really played well in that second Portland game, and one of the big factors is just 3-point shooting has not been good. Over the last 3 games, the team has shot 27% from 3, and over the last 3 games, they're averaging 19 turnovers a game. So you put together below 30% 3-point shooting and almost 20 turnovers a game, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just everybody on the Timberwolves had been hearing about how great of a 3-point shooting team we are, so they just thought that they just go in. And they're always going to just go in. But yeah, I mean, living by the 3 and dying by the 3 is kind of a dangerous way to play basketball. And I think sometimes it's bittersweet when we have these kind of eye-opening moments versus teams that you should demolish. And, they stick it to you the whole way through. And maybe make you reevaluate some of the moves that you're making as a player. But yeah, I mean, we have guys that really need to look in the mirror, and I hope that they can do it quickly.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards, his last 3 games, 36% from the field, 24% from the three-point line, which remarkably for the year, he's still shooting over 40% after that. Now, Julius Randle, he's had a rough couple games, particularly, I think, against the Heat and then against the first game against Portland. Now, I want you to react to this stat right here. So, Karl Anthony Towns, and I hate to keep bringing up, but I'm going somewhere with it. His PER, or basically efficiency rating, is a 27.7. Julius Randle this year is an 18.3. Your reaction to that?
I don't really know enough about those and how they're put together. All I know is Karl Anthony Towns is giving up something like 95% field goal percentage at the rim. So, yeah, you better be making a lot of buckets if every single guy that you have that's taking you on is scoring on you.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about Julius Randle. I believe he's probably still leading our team in assists as a power forward who just joined the team like a month ago. That's pretty wild. He was a double-double guy last night. He'll be fine. The guys I'm worried about is Dante DiVincenzo. I'm worried about Jade McDaniels giving us consistently anything offensively. Last night he went with for 7 and 6 in 33 minutes. Like we need something. Like I'm asking for 15 points. Like I'm not asking for the world. When we're playing 8 guys, basically, they've all got to kind of be on. You can't have a lot of guys that are having an off night. So,
right.
Yeah, we'll get it out. I think I've seen enough of Josh Minot. Like, I think all the fans that were crying for Josh Minot over the Wiley veteran can maybe understand that maybe Josh Minot isn't the next great Timberwolf in the making yet. So, we've got some figuring out to do, and I think it's still early. I'm really not worried at all.
And you're talking about expanding the bench. We finally got what a lot of fans were looking for with minutes for Rob Dillingham. And I would say so start. He did hit a 3, but overall a minus 13 and 3 turnovers. Now, he did have some nice passes. He found some guys open. We just weren't hitting last night. But what'd you think of Rob Dillingham's first performance as a Timberwolf?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really get a gauge on a guy when he's just playing bit minutes here and there, and he still kind of did that last night. But he looked the part to me, and I was kind of expecting him not to. By that I mean like he moved well, like he moved in and out of traffic well. He got around screens well. He seemed to compete defensively. I don't mind what I saw in him. I was actually pleasantly surprised in what he looked like, other than the fact that he's just tiny. He just looks
he's small.
so small, which is crazy because he's supposed to be about the same size as Mike Conley, but maybe it's just the weight. He looks so little.
Yeah, and he still hasn't figured out how to finish at the rim either.
That's going to be trouble. I mean, that's going to be trouble for like a regular size guy finishing at the rim in the NBA when you don't have elite explosive jumping ability. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to really figure it out. Maybe go to the school of Steph Curry and see how he finishes around the rim at such a great percentage.
So how do you think the Wolves, what's really killed them, particularly these last 2 games against the Portland Trailblazers, big guys in the middle, particularly big guys off the bench. The first night, Robert Williams had 19 points against the Wolves. Then Donovan Clingan had a career night and had 19 points as well on very efficient shooting. I mean, why are we so weak in the middle right now? Is it just that Rudy's not strong enough to contain these guys? Is it a Nas problem? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of both. So I remember they were talking at the beginning of that second game that we needed the adjustment we were going to make was we were going to have Rudy step up and stop the pick and roll earlier, like up towards the 3-point line or at the free throw line, and hold the the ball handler up there, which then leaves the big rolling, and then the defenders need to drop down and help. The problem is, same with rebounding. If Rudy's not protecting the rim or if Rudy's not rebounding, nobody else does. And I don't know if that's just because they're like, well, I just expect Rudy to do it or to take care of it. So they kind of are relaxed on that thing. But I mean, we have nobody really helping rebound. I mean, Julius Randle, he is doing his part. But I mean, when we don't have another guy on our team that's over 5, that hurts in rebounds. Like, we need to have guys crashing the glass harder. We need to have guys stepping up and helping defend the bigs. And, it's been the trouble with us for a long time is if you don't have Rudy on him, who else is going to help?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That is a good point. Now, the Wolves recently, and I'm really talking about this 3-game stretch because that's really what's been in between us talking last.
Yeah.
We've had 2 quarters out of the last, I guess it would be 12 quarters, 2 quarters where we scored under 20. And then we had two additional quarters where we scored 20 points even, which in an NBA situation, that's unacceptable because you can't score under 22, 23 points in a quarter and expect to win a lot of games. Now, some of this can be blamed on just the style of game that it was, particularly against the Miami Heat. It was a low scoring kind of game, but man, I feel like the Wolves need to be a little more mature and just kind of fight out of these bad quarters where they're really detrimental to the overall success of the game.
Yeah, I think living by the 3-point shot is kind of a front runner's dream. Like when everyone's shooting 3-pointers and they're going in, it's contagious and it's exciting and everybody's having a great time. But when they're missing, and then the ball kicks to you, and we've missed the last 5 or 6, you get a little tight. Your arms get a little tight, your legs get a little fatigued, and that jump shot's not as true and not as free as it used to be. So maybe, we have to find a better medium between attacking the rim more. Like, I'm 100%, I've stamped it on here. Shoot as many 3-pointers as you can if they're going in. Like, whenever you were asking me, is Anthony Edwards shooting too many? And I said, well, is he still shooting 40%? Because if he is, he's not shooting too many. But when he's shooting 30% or 25%, yeah, he's shooting too many. So, like, maybe as a team, we need to adjust what we're doing and start attacking the rim more.
Right. And we should be able to, particularly with obviously with Anthony Edwards. We know that Julius Randle can attack the rim as well. Nas is one of our best rim attackers. Do you believe the notion that we don't have enough scorers on this team? Because I feel like what in a lot of people's mind, what Rob Dillingham, and we talked about it earlier in the year, what Rob Dillingham's role was supposed to be at the beginning of the season was basically the guy, he's going to come in, score 10, 15 points, and maybe not play a lot of defense, but he'll just get you some points. But obviously he hasn't had the sample size to be able to do that. I wonder if particularly off the bench and in crunch time, we might need a secondary or a third scorer on this team.
I guess what I would say is, who is Dante DiVincenzo? Because if he is that guy, like, I'm assuming that he's that guy, that big time scorer, that guy that's going to give you 15 to 17 a game. Like, that's what I kind of expected Dante to be. So if he's not doing that, then yeah, maybe we're in a little bit of trouble. But I think a lot of it is kind of relying on him, because we were expecting him as a major upgrade as part of this package.
Right. He was a big part of it, and he has been brutal lately. In the last 3 games, he's 3 for 16 from 3, and he's 5 for 22 from the field. So in 5 games, not 5 threes. He's only hit 5 shots. Now, I have heard that he started slow with the Knicks last season. Maybe he's just out of the gates a slow player, but he's got to pick it up. His shot's got to be there, because when the trade happened for Karl Anthony Towns, more people were excited about DiVincenzo than they were about Randall. People are like, oh, this guy's going to come in, hit 4 threes a night. He's going to score 15 to 20 points a game, and we're going to be awesome off the bench. I mean, Nickeil Alexander-Walker took his starting spot last night because Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been playing better than DiVincenzo, which is great. We need Nickeil Alexander-Walker to be that guy. But it's not a good look when Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who is more defensive-minded, is playing better offensively than the guy that we traded Karl Anthony Towns for. One of the guys we traded Karl Anthony Towns for.
Yeah, I mean, and looking back, it's, I'm honestly fairly new to Dante, like watching him and paying close attention to him as a basketball player. I've been on document here saying I hate watching the Milwaukee Bucks play basketball whenever they've got Giannis. Not like I don't like Giannis, I just don't like the style they play with him. So I missed almost all the seasons with him there. And then in the Knicks, he had a huge breakout season last year. And, was that a fluke, or is that the real Dante DiVincenzo, who he is? We're betting that it's the real guy. So if it is, we're going to have to start seeing some more production. Like you said, I like everything else he's given. Like, he's rebounding well. I love the way he's passing. I think he's getting into guys defensively. He's doing fine with that. But, he's shooting 30% from 3 right now, and he's a career 40 or a career 37. So if he can get back up to that 40% 3-point rate he was last year, we'll be okay. But he has to really pick it up.
So I'm just looking at the stats from last year for Dante DiVincenzo around this time, and he did get off to a rough start. Like in October, he shot only 31% from 3. Then in early November last year, up till about the 20th, actually, when he played the Wolves, he shot, I would say, somewhere around 35%. And then he started catching fire. For the rest of the month, he shot somewhere about 48%. Then in December of the next year, that's where he really started to catch fire. He shot 48% from 3 on high numbers. Like, we're seeing 5 for 10s on here. We're seeing 5 for 8s, 4 for 9s. So he might just be one of those players that it takes a little bit for him to get going. And we got to remember, new city, new team, new teammates. It's not like he's not getting open looks, because he really is getting open looks. I think that Finch's offense has been pretty good of setting screens and him flying off of it and him getting open looks. He's just not knocking them down right now.
Yep, and I think part of that, will come. I believe that a lot of the stuff, like all these numbers, will come back to what they should be. We're going to be okay. Sometimes, again, these sorts of games are huge for coaches. So let's hope that we can take these losses and we can put them into some bulletin board material and move forward in a positive way. But I mean, like we were saying, or like I was saying, we're 500 right now. Mm-hmm. We're doing okay. Like, I get it, we're just out of the playoffs, but like, we're okay. We're going to be okay.
My only pushback to that is the schedule does get a little more difficult going forward. And the
West is nasty.
Yeah, the West is pretty good. And I think that people see what we did last year, where we had the wake-up call early, that Atlanta game. We were 1-2, and then we went on this run. Like, I think we went 8-2 or something like that. And we were firing on all cylinders. We beat the Nuggets, the Nuggets. We beat them this year. We also beat the Celtics last year as well. So they're expecting the same thing. And I think what a lot of the pushback is, not to bring up Towns again, is the logic of, okay, we just had our best season ever, or basically tied for best season ever as a franchise. Why didn't we just run it back? And obviously that goes into a lot of semantics, right? That goes into contracts, that goes into long-term with Anthony Edwards, and we don't really need to get into that. But I think that's why the vitriol is so high, is because, man, why mess with the formula? And that's why people saying Tim Connolly, like, I even heard that Chris Finch may be on the hot seat, which I don't believe that at all. I don't
Every
believe
year
that
I've
at
heard
all.
that.
That's crazy.
That's classic bad fan stuff. Like, it's always the coach. I mean, I wouldn't say that Julius Randle's playing bad for us. You know, like, he was definitely shooting out of his mind early, so he came back to normal a little bit with his 3-point shooting. But you know, if you're watching the game, what I'm seeing with him is he's added a wrinkle to our team that we didn't have. Like, not only is he driving and kicking out to the 3-pointer at a huge rate, finding our guys with open 3-point shots. We didn't have a power forward that was doing that before. He's demolishing smalls whenever he can and post-ups and taking advantage of that. We didn't have that before. You know, he's grabbing rebounds and pushing them up, you know, to really ignite our fast break and keep our team moving at a faster pace. We didn't have guys doing that. So, like, he's added a wrinkle, and he hasn't looked really that bad on anything. So I'm fine with what he's given us. I think it's just a matter of everything meshing and working together. And it's going to happen. I'm not worried about it.
I hope you're right. I really hope that you are correct there, because so much hype going in the season. And you bring up an interesting point. I was thinking about this earlier today. How many Wolves seasons would we be 6-6 and be like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
What a good start. Think we might sneak into the playoffs. Now, obviously, that's not the mindset you want to have with Anthony Edwards and with the team assembled. It comes down to expectations. But I think to call this a complete failure so far, or that the sky is falling, or it's time to panic, is a little premature. Also, because like Ant was mentioning after the game, this team tends to show up for the big games. In the big moments, they tend to show up, and they just need the maturity to show up on, like we're saying, back-to-back against Utah, or nights against the Brooklyn Nets or something like that. Which, my only pushback to that is, I was looking up the average age on this team, and Joe Ingles might hurt this a little bit when we're talking about maturity. The average age is 28, which is on the higher end of teams in this league. So it's not like we're this young, like, it's not like back in the day when you were starting like Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins and Zach LaVine, and they're all super young and naive, and they're just playing their guts out. I feel like, not that the Portland Trailblazers have the same amount of talent that we had back then with LaVine and Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. It's not a same correlation, but I feel like that's the kind of team that the Portland Trailblazers are right now. Just a bunch of young guys trying to get it done, trying to prove themselves, and playing extra hard. And I think we just fell victim to that. We only shot like 17% from three last night.
And that's the thing. Like, people keep on forgetting with this sky is falling thing. Like, the first game, Portland shot like 70% from 3-point and made like 4 or 5 times more than they do like on an average game. Like, yeah, that's going to end poorly for whoever's up against that. Like, if some team shoots 65% from 3 on 25 3-pointers or whatever they did, that's going to be a hard game to stick close to. And the same as the second game. If we shoot 12, 13% from 3, we're going to lose. You know, like, it's a make or miss league, the NBA. What you have to do is, when you're watching the game, do we look bad? Like, if the shots are going in or not, that can happen. You know, that's just sometimes part of the game. but do we look bad? And I don't think that we look bad right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a great point. Anyway, I think we'll put an exclamation point on it there. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem, man. Let's get a little bit of a win streak now.
And this is the Running with the Timberwolves podcast on the Believe Sports Network. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and or Apple. And as always, go Wolves.